What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back to the Punk Rock Review Podcast. I got Rob from the Punk Odds. Go check his channel out. There'll be a link in the description, of course. It's been a couple weeks, man. We haven't, busy life. We have to prioritize things, and unfortunately, podcasting has to take the back burner occasionally. So, but we are back, and we got a good episode. I think this is a really interesting topic because I'm an official gatekeeper. I know that dude Dan Frampton's an official gatekeeper. So we got to get us like an official Gatekeeper t-shirt or something made. But we're going to discuss whether or not things are punk rock today. And our opinion, that's law. Like, if you don't agree, kick rocks, buddy. Like, you got to go somewhere else, man. This is where you come to find out how punk rock things are. We don't do mohawks. We don't do studs. But we do gatekeep. So, anyways, I thought this was going to make people take things so seriously, man. It's so silly, dude. Like, first and foremost, I don't hold any authority over anything. So, and if you think I do, I guess awesome. That's kind of weird, but hold on. There we go. But but this is like a kind of a necessary conversation for us. It's not that it means much other than it's an interesting conversation, and I do find it helpful. I do think there is a line. I don't think that some people go, "Oh, there is no such thing as what is punk rock." Yeah, there is, man. I'm sorry. You can dislike it. That doesn't mean that I'm wrong. But we got a couple of real interesting ones here at the end of the show. But we're gonna start off with we're gonna kind of group three artists together because they kind of sound similar, and it just kind of makes sense. So in our last talk, we were talking about I was telling you about how when I was in high school, I listened to ska bands a lot, and I was listening to specifically the Suicide Machines. And one of these like crusty punk guys was like, also like the Suicide Machines, and I thought it was funny, and I said, "Man, that's weird. I didn't think you liked ska." And he's like, "Oh, this isn't a ska band; they're a punk band." I mean, he didn't even like skip a beat, dude. Like, he wasn't exaggerating. He wasn't trying to argue about it. He just said like, "No, this is a punk band." Like, and I just thought like, wait a minute, huh? And so, because I mean, they got horns in a lot of their songs, and not a lot, but they got a couple of songs with horns in it. They got a lot of ska stuff. So do Against All Authority and the Voodoo Glow Skulls, and those are the three bands we wanted to touch on first. So, is Voodoo Glow Skulls, Against All Authority, and Suicide Machines, are those punk bands? And if so, why? So, what is your opinion on that, Rob? What do you think?
So in a broad context, I would just say yes to all three, like without having to think about it that hard. I would put all three of them because I think part of what we define as punk is where they come from, and I know
Mm-hmm.
that's not a perfect way, but it's like they were all part of punk scenes, and they all
Yeah.
came out of punk scenes, so at least they all have that, and that's not the ultimate definer, but to me, all of these bands at their core are punk bands that incorporated ska in different ways. So I think Suicide Machines is kind of almost like an underground pop punk band that used some ska, where I think Against All Authority is like if the Unseen would have had ska, that's what it would have sound like. And like Voodoo Glow Skulls, I think is a little more complicated because they're a little more dynamic of a band, but I just can't think of another genre that would actually fit what they do when they do their serious stuff, their parody stuff. They bring in a lot of other influences. So they're very eclectic, but I think all of it can safely fit into the punk soup. I just think it's kind of divisive of where they sit. Like I don't meet a lot of people that are into Against All Authority and then into stuff that sounds a whole lot different than it generally in my. I think it's a little bit closed off. Where I feel like again like Suicide Machines could have been just like a mainstream band also, and that's where that sort of gets in the way. Like they're almost like a version of like say a band like Less Than Jake that became huge rock stars. They're like the underground version of that. So I think it all kind of qualifies as punk. There's just different degrees and different segments of the punk fandom, and it's not for everyone. I think all three of those bands aren't for everyone, and that's the key with this discussion.
You know what's funny is we were just saying that, or I just said like there's definitely a line there, right? That you cross that line and you're no longer a punk band. While that remains true, you have to step pretty far back to see that line because when you get close, it's real gray.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these bands, Suicide Machines, have side projects that are like death metal. I don't know if you knew this or not, but they have side project
Mm-hmm.
bands that are like super, super heavy, right? So like you can tell where those dudes come from. And a lot of this stuff, when I think of a band of whether or not it's punk or not, most of the time it's got some to do with their sound, but a lot more to do with like their ethos. Like, what are they all about, man? Are these guys like, are they about $10 tickets, skate parks? Are they into some political stuff as well as some like, you know, anthemic like rah-rah songs? Are they, I don't know. Okay, there's a very big distinction between Suicide Machines, Against All Authority, Voodoo Glow Skulls, and say something like Mustard Plug, Real Big Fish, Skank and Pickle. All 6 of those bands are ska bands, but 3 of them aren't punk bands. And that's what made this an interesting conversation to me, is that you can be both. You don't have to be exclusively punk. You can be a punk band and still be a ska band. And I think that the people that listen to it will tell you a whole lot. The people at the shows, how they behave, what the videos look like, the packaging. A lot of stuff goes into this because we all have these kind of stereotypes, whether it is what it is, man. Stereotypes come from somewhere across the board, whether it's positive or negative. I've never understood the gripe against stereotypes because they've all been born from repetition of some kind of something. So if you do something over and over and over, it becomes stereotypical, right? And then people go, yeah, but you can't point out this. Yeah, but that's how you describe things most of the time, by their stereotypical behavior. You know, yes, you can make it kind of mean, but it I don't know, man. It's a weird thing to me. I think that stereotypes are I think people are just too sensitive. That's what it boils down to.
Our brains do stereotypes as a shorthand of getting through the world. Like, we don't rely on stereotypes wholeheartedly. Like, you know, you can be very negative with them. Like, hey, this dude's got tattoos on his face, so he's a criminal. Like that
Right.
is a stereotype that if you don't interrogate further is a negative stereotype. I think stereotypes with music, though, are perfectly fine. I think genres, although they can be a little silly, they are created for a reason. Like, our brains do that for a reason, to keep things organized.
And why is it silly? Like what is it? What makes it? Because I don't think it's silly. I take pride in the fact, like,
I think the lines that people make.
No. I'm being like, I'm playing devil's advocate, kind of like
yeah.
Like, I don't think it's silly at all. I don't. I take it kind of serious. I'm proud of the fact that I like punk rock. Like, I don't like radio pop punk stuff. Like, I listen to at this stage of my life, I like a little bit of Blink. I like a little bit of Green Day. But I would have thought the older I got, like, the softer the music I would have got. No. The more I like even more punk stuff, the older I get. I just happen to also like different genres now, like jazz. I listen to a little bit more metal than I used to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the silly part is the restrictive part, because I don't think you have to do one to do the other. That's what I think is silly.
Okay, yeah, that is silly. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Like you and I both, we've talked like offline. We like a lot of like non-punk music that we could
Lots of it.
Talk about a lot, and I think
Adele.
that's why, yeah, she's great. That's where I like Taylor Swift. I mean, come on,
bro.
Like,
unfortunately, I do.
Yeah, and I think that's when it restricts what else you like. Is like, there's no problem of making that category like that. I don't.
Well, I think that is inherently unpunk. If you go, I like the Unseen, I like the Virus, so therefore I cannot listen to Lady Gaga. I don't know, man. Lady Gaga is just as political as those guys are. What are you talking about, man? And she has this giant platform and takes these crazy risks to get her message across. Now, do I still think that she's kind of like a posh rich girl? Yeah. But you can still be pretty bold when you're that. I mean, I don't know. I think telling somebody that they can't do something or can't be something is also very weak, man. Super weak sauce. I don't like that.
That's when punk becomes authoritarianism, kind of. When punk becomes rules.
Okay, but let's be honest though. Is it though? Because it is. It is. Because we remember when we were just talking about how we felt some kind of way when somebody in these big smorgasbord groups of people were like listening to stuff that we felt was ours. We get, dude. That is a part of it too, man. And people
it's natural.
People don't want to admit it, and I'm okay with admitting where I look ridiculous or where my flaws are. You have to be, man. And I think that I am much happier when I'm able to go, yeah, I'm ridiculous, man. It is what it is, dude. It's a contradictive statement that I said. I said this. I believe both of them, and it contradicts each other. It is what it is.
That's why I like doing a podcast with you, man, because I explore that contradiction a lot on this show. You know, like I like talking about, because these are things I think never really get talked out, like on that level where we just make the assumptions of, okay, this is the script I'm supposed to follow for this, and then like really interrogate why you like something, like we're doing now with defining what punk is. And then the genre thing holds up so well for me, especially as I've got older. That's where I've changed. Like I told you, like I didn't used to like admit, I would say I don't like music if there wasn't something like punky around, because that was part of my like persona, but who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like
Well,
that stuff doesn't matter.
that's insecurities of being young. You can't,
It is.
I mean, like think about it like this. I started a punk rock label, and the first release on my label is a hip hop album.
Mm.
You know, how many people are like already giving me crap for that? I'm like, why would you? First off, why do you care? Second, that dude that did the hip hop is more DIY and punk rock than you are. What are you doing? Like, you're not doing anything. He's making his own beats, writing his own music, recording it all, mixing it, mastering it. I did all the artwork. I did the layout. Dude, between two people, we got a release out. What is more punk rock than that? Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to tell somebody they are or they are not. Well, not very many people anyways. But like, I'm not going to just generally step out there and go, you're not blah, 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 because I don't really care. But don't tell me I'm not doing something right, because there's no rules. That's the whole point of all this. There aren't any rules.
Yeah, so I think it really becomes in defense of punk rock, and less on the offense. Sometimes is probably the right way to have it. Where like, I think punk rock needs to be legitimized as a genre sometimes, and I think that's kind of where we're going with this conversation.
Yes.
Because I was so glad when you said that a couple of weeks ago that punk does have a sound. Like, now that's not inherently good. Like, if something is punk, that doesn't make it good. If something's not punk, it doesn't make it inherently bad.
Yeah, just because it's punk doesn't mean it's good, but punk does have a sound, man.
Yeah, like, there is a specific, like, there's specific chord progressions. There's all this stuff and it can be deviated from. Yeah, there's not like hard and fast rules, but it's punk when you see it. Yeah, you know it when you see it.
This is the problem I have with people like Finn McKenty, and I don't mean to go on like some kind of rant against that dude, but that's the stuff that where he and we disagree, man, because he's like, oh man, Suicide Boys are the new punk. Dude, shut up. You're being an edgelord, man. You're saying that because you know it's going to irritate people. You know it's going to get under their skin. And I mean, there's something to be said for that. That's how you want to operate your channel, and you want to do things to get clicks. I've had to do it before to a certain degree. There are certain things that I will and won't say, and I wouldn't do that because that's ridiculous. You're on record saying that. And so whenever you inevitably say something that contradicts that, it's going to be on record, man. And he's saying these things, I think, to get a rise out of people, because he acts as if he doesn't do that, but he does. Man, yeah, I'm not going to talk about that guy because it's going to get me on a rant. Because that dude, that's what he does. I think he's the one of the most fake YouTubers on the entire platform. I mean, show me where I'm wrong, somebody, please. I would love to be able to go, oh crap, I owe that guy an apology. He's got a lot of knowledge. I watch his videos sometimes, but come on, man. But like, as far as these bands, I think they're absolutely punk rock. I think it would probably go in that order I had it written down, actually. Against All Authority is probably the most punk rock of them. Then you got Suicide Machines, and then you got Voodoo Glow Skulls, who are very Latin. They have a lot of songs that are just straight up Latin songs. And I'm from Houston, Texas, bro. When I heard Voodoo Glow Skulls, it felt like something that was from here. I thought it might be from here. But so I love that music. So my name's Randall, and they have a song called Fat Randy. And when I went by Randy as a kid, I was never fat. I was really skinny. Now I am fat. So the song fits the mold better now. But when I was young, that's what got me to check out the album Firme. Is it Firme or Firm? I don't know. Whatever.
Firme is how you would pronounce it.
True. I'm a white guy. I said that wrong. Anyways, I looked at it and saw Fat Randy. I went, huh, that's funny. Oh, it's on Epitaph. I'll buy this. And I just bought it without having any idea what it was. I just happened to also have already owned the Suicide Machines Destruction by Definition. And so when I heard Voodoo Glow Skulls, it just slid right in. And then later on, I was getting Against All Authority. What was the album called? All Fall Down, maybe? No. Yeah,
the black and white one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All Fall Down.
Yeah.
And so I had all those in around the same time, and I remember thinking for a long time, oh, there's a whole nother genre of punk, because Rancid also sounds similar to this. They got a lot of ska in their songs. So I, for a long time, kind of only liked ska punk stuff. I mean, Operation Ivy. Which side is it on? I mean, are they punk? Because I certainly think they are. And so yeah, I think the discussion on whether or not those three bands are punk was going to be a pretty short discussion, because it's one of the ones where we're kind of setting the ground rules for the next couple of bands that we're going to talk about. I definitely think that Against All Authority, Suicide Machines, and the Voodoo Glow Skulls are all very much punk rock bands. If anybody has a different opinion and would like to talk about it in the comments, man, I would love to hear your reasons for whatever. I just want to talk about it. It's a fun conversation to me. I'm not trying to start an argument. I'm actually trying to get like a dialogue going back and forth.
It's a tough argument to make, though. I think that I would be interested in it, because I would wonder how would those three
Or do you have other
really
bands that
good.
fit the mold that maybe I don't know, like Stuck
That's
Lucky?
true.
You ever heard Stuck Lucky? Throw me some more bands in the comments that sound
Yeah.
like those guys.
Yeah,
Like
we need future episode
whatever.
ideas, guys. Come on,
Yeah,
comment.
facts.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever the conversation is, man. This channel's doing well, and I'm having a lot of fun, and I appreciate everybody's support. So like, bring it on, man. Good, bad, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not afraid of conflict either. So if you have an argument you want to do, let's do it, man. It's fun. It's just a good time. This other band, though, let's see. This band here is going to probably ruffle some feathers because I think this is a little more gray. Sublime. Is Sublime punk?
God, that's such a tough question. This was the toughest one to me of all the lists, and part of it is just a bias because I absolutely love Sublime. Like, Sublime is such an important band for me, like personal. Like even to my punk rock connection, I heard about Bad Religion and the Descendants on the 40 Ounce to Freedom CD. Like, those are two. I'm wearing Descendants shirts right now, and I love Bad Religion. I found those bands through Bad Religion. Bad Religion definitely is of the punk scene that they were in. Like, you talked to old
Bad Religion or Sublime?
Yeah, obviously Bad Religion, but Sublime is, yeah.
Okay, I was like, what are we talking about now?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Bad Religion rant. No,
is Bad Religion punk rock? I don't think so, man. Those guys are sellouts.
Yeah, what a conversation that would be. No, but I think
I need to clip that out and put that as a short. People are
that would be amazing. So Sublime, the Sublime guys, knew all the guys that we always talk about. Like, they were with them, they were in that same scene. Along with like the No Doubt people and all that would have been all interconnected. I think they were from a slightly different spot in California, so they had a slightly different social status than some of the other dudes, some of the other bands that they were going around with. They were punk rock. Not everything they presented was punk rock, and I don't even think it was necessarily they were into ska, but they were also into reggae, like a lot more explicitly.
Well, they were a lot of hip hop too.
Yeah. And they spoke Spanish in some of their songs. Like, they had a lot going on. And even like there was even country elements to them. And I think they had a
DJ at some point. They had all kinds.
They were extremely eclectic, and so I think how they were presented to the world, because let's face it, they got a lot bigger after Bradley passed away, sadly. So I think how they were received by the world was not necessarily as a punk band. They were just another 90s alternative band. I think to a lot of people, but they are rooted in punk rock. Like in the same way you could say some like grunge bands started out as punk bands, but they got sort of marketed as grunge. Yeah, I think they very much fit that same kind of mold. I would just rather listen to Sublime than Nirvana any day of the week.
100%. Look, dude, I'm gonna go out on a Nirvana sucks, dude. Come on, let's just be honest about it. That band's terrible. Oh, dude, I don't care. Nirvana sucks, dude. Their songs are boring. It's just the band that they were okay songwriters. Kurt Cobain was a pretty charismatic dude, but like as a whole, I don't get it, man. And I was there when it happened. I was there. I remember when he died. I remember when In Utero was coming out. I remember when Nevermind came. I always had the albums. I always listened to a couple of the songs from the albums. They've got a few songs that are good. I'm not even saying they're not a punk band. They just suck. I don't get it, man. They're not as bad as Pearl Jam, but they're bad. I'm not a grunge guy. Let me just put that out there. I don't like grunge music. Okay, so my take on Sublime here for a second. Sublime has a lot in common with somebody like Pennywise. Aesthetically, where they're from, who they are. And I think that just tells me a lot about them. When Bradley died, they started doing the Long Beach Dub All-Stars. Then they went with Sublime with Rome. That also tells me a lot about who they are, because trying the Long Beach Dub All-Stars was very punk rock, because if they were all they were like rock star guys, they wouldn't even call it Sublime with Rome. It would just be Sublime, and they would be riding that wave, and they would just be like, "No, we're gonna get." And they would have new albums coming out all the time, but they don't. They pay tribute to their fallen soldier, man, and they have a guy that sounds pretty good. I don't know what the point is I'm trying to make, but I feel like everything about them is punk rock. Their music, I consider reggae a punk rock parallel. I consider ska a punk rock parallel. They do cover Descendants. They cover Bad Religion. They played the Warped Tour. What about them is not punk rock? Like, that's the question I want to know. What about them is not punk rock? Because on these other two I got answers for that question. With Sublime, I don't have an answer for that. So what about them's not punk rock?
I think you could categorize them the same way you categorize any other band that made it, that came from punk rock. The difference with them is we don't have like their declining later albums because
Yeah.
of Bradley's passing. We don't have like an album to be mad at that came out in 2002 or something. So I think they're no different. They're no different than like a Green Day or one of those type of bands. They are literally from from the underground, was capitalized on. They just didn't get to see the fruits of their labor in the same sort of way.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, that might have made them stay on this pedestal because I still hold them in a pretty high regard.
Same.
Because I have like 3 albums and they all just slap, dude. Like I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little tired of hearing some of their songs because when I was younger, that's all I listened to was Sublime, Rancid, and probably No Effects. That's all. I mean, that's it. That's all we in our car. We probably had 12 CDs, and it was those 3 bands, and that's it. And that was in like the 90s, so I didn't even have like later Rancid. I only had like 3 other albums. So like, I'm a little tired of a lot of that stuff. I'm a little tired of An Out Come the Wolves. It's still my favorite album, but I'm a little tired of it. But I think I'm just gonna state that. Sublime is punk. And again, I welcome any kind of opinions on that. If you have an opinion on it for whatever reason, dude, let me know, man. I'd love to know your comments on this because I do think it depends on your age. I think it depends on where you're from. Because if you're 17 years old and you're a street punk kid, you may not think the Sublime is punk, and I'd love to know why. Because that's the question: is what about them is not punk? If you can explain that to me, then I think you have an argument. Otherwise, I think that I'm probably on the right side of this one, and that they are absolutely.
I agree with you 100%. The only thing I would say a slight pushback is I don't think their fandom was what you would associate with punk, and it depends how much you value that. Like I personally found Sublime through like older dudes who were totally like normie dudes. Like that's how guys who had never thought about punk rock or anything of punk rock at all. So I think they got categorized as a little bit different. And sometimes Sublime fans can be a little bit much. I have experienced that.
They're definitely on the hippier side of things, but like that's not their fault.
No. And at the same time, like I got a stoner hippie cousin and we don't click on anything in music except for we can talk Sublime all day long.
And that's,
because
it
kind of brought us together on that.
Does that mean that, Blink-182 is not punk because their fans aren't punk?
No, and it's the same. It's like I said earlier. It's the same path, except for fortunately all of them survived.
Yeah, and like I do think that Sublime is a little more of the it's the weirder one. It's definitely the punk band. It's not a punk band the most. I mean, they're the one that has the most stuff in common with like bongs and head shops, but you don't see like the Unseen stuff in there. You don't see the Clash stuff in there. Well, maybe the Clash, but you don't see like punk stuff in these places, but you do see Sublime things. So,
but if they were just like reincarnated tomorrow, like where are they going to play? They're going to play at all the punk venue. Like that's where you would automatically associate that type of music, sound, ethics.
They would tour with Rancid, the Interrupters. They tour with bands like that.
There's a whole Reddit thread of like, would Sublime have been a fat band like after they got dropped by their major label or something? And it's like, you were saying with Pennywise, like, yeah, probably all those guys knew each other. They were all
friends. Like
they were all a part of the same crew.
I saw the Long Beach Dub All Stars in the late '90s, and that's how I know they were friends because what's his name, Fletch? Is it Fletch or Fletcher?
Fletcher. Drag, yeah.
Yeah, big tall fella. He was like on the road with them, like hanging out.
He's like a Sublime, like when you think of the Sublime dudes, like like you said, I think Pennywise is great. That's a great, like I was saying, how they get kind of shit for being like a bro band sometimes. I think like the maximum bro punk band is probably Sublime. That's probably how you could categorize Sublime, even though their lyrics are actually a lot deeper in that. Their lyrics,
that's the thing, is that's why
it's more of their vibe. Yeah, that's why me and my hippie cousin can have long talks about Badfish or Pool Shark and stuff.
Listen to their song Pawn Shop. Like, come on, bro. Like everything about this band is punk. He just decided he didn't want to play simple 3-chord street punk songs. He wanted to play. He was just a little bit better musician. He was also, when you're on that particular substance, you tend to it opens your mind a little bit. I mean, the craziest stuff I ever wrote was on that. And so, I mean, that'll never see the light of day because it wasn't what I want to put out. It was just too weird. And like,
that was the genius of Bradley, I think, was being able to harness that stuff, and it was only for a short amount of time, though. It couldn't it couldn't have lasted so long.
Yeah, that's sad, man. But Sublime, punk rock, boom, Gatekeeper approved. 100%, dude. Let's see here. This is where it's going to get interesting because I think these are easier questions to answer, but they're going to piss off more people.
Hotter topics, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of hot topic, Is My Chemical Romance punk?
Not exactly. They are cousins of punk, I will say. They are punk adjacent.
They're
Okay.
like the rich cousins of punk.
Yes. They're and I for the record, I like My Chemical Romance. I actually do.
Oh no, that's not the question. I like them too.
No,
That's not,
no,
yeah, we're not...
and I think I like them not through a punk framing, but like I discovered them as like part of the Warped Tour bands. You know what I mean? Like, hey, they're kind of cool too. You know, before they blew up, they have a lot of punk elements in their songs, but that's just the influence of punk. I think they're influenced by punk.
When
like
they
I
were
said,
younger and they weren't as good of musicians, they were
yeah
a lot more into punk. But that's
but
because
they're also
punk...
influenced by like Queen and everything else though too, and they incorporate, similar to Sublime, they incorporate a lot of their influences, and they have created their own subculture based on their music as well. So I think they are their own thing that's kind of ill-defined, although like related to punk. Like, you know, not like, again, when you take all the inflammatory stuff that people just get mad that they exist and all that, when you actually bring it down objectively, I think they are related to punk.
Yeah, I mean, they're an emo band, which is absolutely related to punk.
Yeah, that's like the cousins. Yeah, that's
like
that branch.
But I will say that I still, if we're gonna have to go with a yes or a no answer on here, because that's the whole point of this conversation, is are they punk? I'm saying no. I'm gonna say no, and I'm gonna say no with the caveat that that doesn't mean it is good or bad. It just means no. It's like,
it's not a value statement.
Do you want a cheeseburger today? No. Oh, you hate cheese? No, I love cheeseburgers. I just don't want one right now. And so, no, they're not a punk band. Like, definitively, like they're just not. But does that mean that they couldn't go on tour with some punk bands, or that some punk bands couldn't support them on a tour, or that they don't like punk? But no, dude, it just means that the music that they play and the image that they project, it's just a little left of it, man. It's not quite there. And I think that a lot of these young kids, because I have a lot of people, dude, the bands that I get asked that I like, when I tell somebody that I like punk rock, it kind of blows my mind, because I've been asked, what kind of music do you listen to? Mostly punk rock. Oh, you like Slipknot? I'm like, what? I'm like, no, actually, I hate Slipknot. They're worse than
completely out of left field.
No, dude, I get that's been okay.
At least Nirvana would be a good response, because there's a punk DNA there. Slipknot,
a lot.
How do they even connect
I just happen to not like Nirvana, but I think Nirvana is more punk than MCR and the next person we're going to talk about. But like, oh, so you like Slipknot has been the response enough times to where I would bring that up. It's been more than once. It's been no, dude, a lot of people. And it was like, let's see, 2010s probably is when that happened the most. Yeah, I would tell people, like, you know, I'd be at a grocery store and I'm talking to somebody in line. Oh, yeah, what kind of music you like? Punk. Oh, you like Slipknot? No. Well, what's punk rock exactly? So I had to like explain it, because, you know, it's not a thing that everybody knows. Like, my mom has been raising me her whole life and still doesn't really know what punk rock is. You know, so like, I'm not mad at them for that, but it is a weird one to like, I'm like, that's a metal band. Like, what do we, what? But, you know, to like some 50-year-old redneck truck driver, that all sounds the same to them, dude. Like, that sounds just like Rancid to them.
Alternative rock, not as a genre, but just alternative rock, I think, is how people categorize it as
yeah,
like
I guess
rock,
I don't know,
rock that isn't solely mainstream, although it doesn't get much more mainstream than Slipknot if you really break it down.
I mean, I think they're pretty mainstream, but
yeah, but mainstream, but
and that's not punk, people. Not playing.
You know, like I don't know how to describe it, but yeah. But I think if you saw someone see Slipknot, they think, oh, that's a little wild, that's a little dangerous, and that's not necessarily inherent to punk, but it's very there with punk.
It's pretty inherent to punk. I mean,
it goes with it.
Dude. Punk rock is not supposed to be a safe place. I'm sorry, dude, but like, punk rock was never like, come here and don't worry about getting hurt. What are you talking about, dude? Punk rock is come over here and do whatever you want. Like, that's punk rock was never born. Yeah. Punk rock's not a safe place, man. Like, it could be a place for you to be yourself, but it's not a safe place necessarily. Like, have you seen these places where these bands play? Like, I mean, come on.
That should be a defining characteristic of this. If these bands ever played at a place that you could be stabbed, then they get like 10 punk points.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, there's a place that I go to down here in Houston. I'm not going to talk about it because I want to put them on blast, but like, I love it. But I can guarantee you that most people, and even a lot of people that consider themselves pretty punk rock, would drive by and go, I'm not stopping there. It's a cool place, man. I like it. It's kind of far from my house, but it's a good spot. I'm going there in a few weeks to see this band called Conservative Military Image, and my buddy's band Liberty and Justice, and then my other buddy's band True Intentions are playing, which are like, you know, oi bands.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm just gonna call them CMI. I can't stand the name Conservative Military Image. It just brings this like.
Yeah.
What did you think when I said that?
I thought it was somebody like one of those white power bands or something. When you
I
said that
know,
name.
and they're not. They're absolutely like the opposite of that.
They're probably a very political band in the other way. Yeah, it's just
like in their last video, they're like burning Proud Boy shirts and setting them on fire. Like seriously. So
yeah,
like,
and see when you said that, I thought like it was Michael Graves, the lead singer. I thought you were gonna say when you said that.
But like, oh man, but they're so good, dude. But like, man, that name is rough, bro. Like my buddy, when he started Liberty and Justice, I even thought like, that's an interesting name.
Mm-hmm.
But
that could be coded a couple of ways though too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I'm pretty I'm into America pretty hard though for like an old punk rocker. Like I love where I live, man. I love my freedoms. I got the freedom to say whatever I want. And so like I get it, but at the same time I'm like, I still lean a little bit more towards like the Virus and the Unseen, and like I've been saying the Virus a lot. I've been listening to them a lot lately, sorry.
Yeah.
But like I lean more street punk stuff, but like I get it. I understand like that part of punk, because that's definitely anyways, I'm going to that club to see them, and it's gonna be packed, dude. I can't wait. I'm filming the whole thing, dude. I'm taking my GoPro and my phone. Like I'm psyched, dude. It's gonna be, dude. That band's so good, bro. Yeah, I'll let you. You need to listen to their newest album's called what's it called? Something Violence. It's like it's a word. You're like, whoa. They have a song called Yard Hard, and it's like talking about being on a prison yard. I'm pretty sure that the singer's been in prison.
They were there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's anyways, that's gonna take a real weird turn. MCR. Because I like that band, and most people just don't want to ever listen to stuff. They just want to make assumptions and then move on. And I hate that. It drives me nuts, dude. Stop making assumptions. Stop judging a book by its cover, because that's what I got done to me all the time. Stop doing that, man. Listen to the words, listen to the lyrics, understand these dudes are far from what you might think they are. People are. The last time I talked about a skinhead with my buddies, like they assumed that they're like, you know, people think that. I'm like, I don't care what people think that I mean. I know what I mean. People that watch this channel know what I mean. If I meant that, I would say bonehead, and I think people mostly know that. Like, and if you don't,
research, people. Yeah.
If you don't know that, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to somebody else. Like, it is what it is. It's okay. You can ask questions. I'll answer them. But let's not talk about that anymore. That's a weird conversation. But yeah, MCR, not punk, but a good band. I really enjoy their music. Their first couple of albums, I would say, were like heavily influenced by punk.
Yeah, like, I would say they're more like pop punk in those first couple albums before they went full.
Well, they're pop punk, but they're heavily influenced by bands like Bad Religion, No Effects, probably even. You can hear it in their songwriting, but they're like the engineering, the vocal styles, the lyrical content. That's where they start to differ. And but I mean, those dudes are some master songwriters, and they're cool dudes. Like I've met them a couple times. Well, I met them all once, and then I met Gerard Way once, and they were. Yeah, Gerard Way's the singer, right? Yeah. Bro, for a minute I thought that was a different singer from a different band for a second. No, that's him. Bro. Yeah, I met that dude a couple times, and they were all really nice guys. They weren't very much different from the punk guys that I hang out with.
Well, talk to punk guys, like the guys that are in bands, and they're always cool with them. Like that gets brought up a lot in interviews and stuff, and they're always like, oh, they're dudes. They're just, you know, another band out there.
Well, they probably like most of the same music. They just chose to play it a little different. Like,
a different interpret. And then they were the kings of the genre, so I think that kind of paints you in a little bit different spot. Whereas, like, you know, hey, some bands that I like, you know, we talk about Alkaline Trio has like emo elements to it, or is kind of an emo band, but can go in a few different spots. Whereas My Chemical Romance has to take all the bullets of it. Like, if you don't like the genre of emo, that's sort of shorthand for I don't like My Chemical Romance. So they get put on a weird pedestal. Yeah.
Yeah. They're a good band, dude. I still, to this day, I will say that I stopped at about 5 songs on the Black Parade. I like about 5 songs there, and then everything before that.
Yeah. No, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, man. I went through a breakup like right around the time that thing came out, and I was I was like 17. Oh man, it was. I might as well. I didn't dress like an emo kid, but I might as well put on the black eyeliner during that phase because I was in the feels in that album.
Dude, I never had the courage to do something like that. I had a friend who was in a band called the Phantom Pains, and they were like, if My Chemical Romance was like a hardcore band, that's what this was. And I got one of their 7-inch records recently, and I forgot how good they were, man. But it's like old AFI, but a little heavier. And like, he was like the first dude that I knew that was like at a hardcore show wearing skinny jeans, swoopy hair, a nice shirt, eyeliner. And I'm like, Daryl, what are you doing, bro? And he's like, I get bitches, bro. I'm like, what? Like, cause that wasn't even on my radar. I was like, oh, I'm a dirty punk kid. I don't really know much about girls, but like, he was like, no, I get ladies, man. Like, that's what dude, he was all about women, man. That was his jam, dude. He loved ladies. And he was a good looking dude too. And he was all swole. But I mean, like, he was the first guy that I saw like that, like way back before it was cool. Like before I worked at Hot Topic, he was the first dude that dressed like a scene kid, like an emo scene kid. But he was in the hardcore scene. He was in the punk scene. He went to shows. He flyered. He did DIY stuff. So I know that those kids come from the same place I come from. Yeah. So I don't have like any kind of disrespect towards anybody. This is a fun topic to talk about. And so anybody that makes it this far into the show, you got to understand that this is not any kind of disrespect, man. All these bands we're talking about, with the exception of the last one, I have a lot of respect for, and I like, and I own albums from all of them. Okay, so let's talk about the one that I was actually the most excited to talk about, because this is going to be fun. Is Machine Gun Kelly punk? No, thank you. Have a nice day, everybody. Bro, what are we talking about here?
Machine Gun Kelly is a parody of punk. It is a copy of punk.
He's like Saturday Night Live for punk rock.
It is. So it's like
that's
like,
funny, bro.
And I believe MGK is a punk rock fan. Like, he was in the SLC Punk sequel. Like, I believe he listened to punk rock in his life, and so he decided, I'm going to do some punk rock albums. But it was such a naked, just let me jump on a trend kind of thing. And that's all that really was, you know. And again, if you like his songs, I don't really care. Like, that's fine. And I see there is some value in some of it, but it is a copying of punk. It is right now. If I were to see, I don't know, anything, if I see a Michael Jordan highlight and I go out there and on a 4-foot rim, try to dunk like Michael Jordan, I am not a basketball player. I am not Michael Jordan. I am imitating what those things do. And that's how I take MGK as an imitation. And sometimes imitation can be good within music. That's not like, again, like you were saying earlier, that's not necessarily a value statement. I just don't see how that's punk in really any sort of way other than being the aesthetics of punk, or just all the accoutrements of punk.
Nothing about him is punk rock. Not even the aesthetics, dude. Especially not the aesthetics. Are you kidding me? Have you seen photos of this guy? There's black nothing about him. There's nothing about him that is punk, dude. Not his music, not his scene, not his attitude, not his clothing, not his girlfriend, not his anything, dude, not his backing band. There is nothing about MGK that is punk. Okay, if you're mad about this, I don't care. There's not. I'm so tired of people telling me that he saved pop punk. He saved punk. Like, dude, look, this is where I'll just happily stand in front of that gate, because like it's wild. The stuff that I read in these comments, it's got to be all youngsters. So there's a little bit of like, cool, man, you're a kid, you don't really get it. But I've absolutely read that he is the greatest of all time pop punk singer. And I have literally, this isn't just one person. This is, bro, because I'm deep in the, I wish I was kidding. Bro, I'm deep in these YouTube comments because this is what I do, man. This is all I really do is YouTube content. So I read a lot of this stuff, right? I've read that he saved punk rock, not pop punk, but he saved punk rock. That he is the greatest punk rock band of the 2020s. That, bro, what about this dude is okay? That's my question, dude. I don't want to tell you why he's not punk rock. You tell me why he is. What about that dude is punk, dude? Not the MTV Music Awards. That's not very punk rock. Not the Grammys. That's not very punk rock. Not all the fashion crap with all the and when I say fashion, because there are fashion punks out there, I know that. And by the fashion punks, I mean like dirty, crusty fashion punk kids that they there's an aesthetic, right? But nothing about $1,200 t-shirts is punk rock. I'm sorry, dude. Travis Barker is not punk rock anymore. He was. He is not. He was. He is not. He's a rich guy now. And I'm not even saying there's anything wrong with Travis Barker. I love Travis Barker. I like MGK's rap. I think I enjoy his rap. Like I do. This pop punk crap he's doing is annoying because it's got me calling it pop punk, and it's not. It's like if you took a Coca-Cola and then you made a Coke, like a Diet Coke, and then you took from that and you made another Diet Coke, and then you took from that and you made Sprite. MGK. Like, bro, this dude sucks, dude. There's nothing. He really is just like, he's a, like, wow, I hate to have to say this, but he's a culture vulture, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to the highest degree. I don't doubt that he listened to some kind of punk. Sublime. That's what he listened to. He's the Sublime guy. He's the Sublime guy. He listened to bands like Sublime, maybe like Pennywise or something, and thought, oh, I know what punk is. You know what I'm saying? Do I doubt that he ever went to shows? No, I'm sure he did. But there's also lots of kids that went to those shows that weren't really punk. They just liked some of the music and they liked being around those people. Like, that's okay too. I'm not saying that you can't go to shows. I'm not, but like, MGK is 100% not punk. Like, there's nothing punk about that guy.
No, I think we're basically in agreement. That's why I said like he's a parody of punk, and I thought
I just want to rant a minute. I hate
that was a smoother way of saying your Dr. Pepper to Dr. Pepper to Dr. Pepper or Coke thing. But that was kind of what I was getting at. Like it is something that is borrowing from punk in there. The problem I had with MGK is like I don't have a problem if people incorporate punk or pop punk into their music. Like I think that's kind of cool. Like cool because and let's face it, so much of modern rock music was influenced by punk rock. I think it was the biggest explosion or the biggest innovation in music until hip hop really took over. It was punk rock before that. So
punk rock and hip hop have a lot in common too.
A lot of people use punk rock and a lot of people and not MGK. What MGK I think did was a lot of younger artists that just did a little bit of like a lot of stuff like my daughter listens to. I'm listening to it and like, oh, that sounds like pop punk, but it's not really projecting itself out to be. That's what I kind of got mad at with MGK. And I just thought he was a poor representative because like with pop punk, like it might be a corny thing, but I'm pretty defensive of it because it's a genre I think has quite a bit of value and it got crapped on for about like 15 years straight. Yeah. And then so I thought MGK was like the wrong guy to be the new leader of like, hey, you know, we're going to listen to pop punk or we're going to reevaluate pop punk again. I think he was the wrong guy for that.
Well, I will say that's why I'm so glad Blink's back.
Yeah, talk about things that saved pop punk in the 2020s. How about like Tom going back to Blake? Like there you go, sold out tour that saved pop punk in this era. You know, Midtown coming back. My Chemical Romance taking Midtown out.
There are going to be people that say that like they wouldn't have done that without MGK, and I don't necessarily agree with that. But maybe. I think there is some validity to that statement.
Maybe.
And look, with me ranting on MGK for a minute, I have to be an adult and a man enough to be able to say that there are some things about him and his music that I can acknowledge are good. And I will say that without him, there's probably a certain number of young kids that wouldn't have gotten into the Blinks, then gotten into the Descendants, then gotten into Bad Religion. Because there is going to be some of that. How much? Very little, I would think, but some of it. And if it brings one kid to the real folds, come on in, man. Come on in. We want them. We want them. We need them. We need a new generation of like real punk rock kids, right? So if that's going to happen, then cool. There is some good. But we're not talking about is there good or not. We're talking about is he punk, and I don't think that he is. I don't think there's nothing DIY about that guy. No. There's no struggle. Oh, I'm struggling with depression, bro. Dude, you just stopped doing your pop punk thing, went back to hip hop. What? And you can do it. Like I'm not saying don't do it, but don't. I don't know, man. I feel like it would be real messed up if I did a song that had a little bit of like fast rhythms, and then all of a sudden I say I'm a rapper. Like that's kind of weird, man.
It's inauthentic. That's what it is.
Yeah, inauthentic is the best word for it.
And I think that's where he rose. That's why I said of the parodies. It's not about using those elements. And I like again like people like my daughter's friend because
you're saying it better than I am. You're very much more like eloquent.
She has told me this thing too that she's in the 5th grade, but she gets into punk rock debates. Like I'm so proud of her
That's amazing
because she likes MGK, like it's part of her thing, but she doesn't think it's punk. And to her, like punk is like Green Day and the Interrupters, but still it's like, you know, she gets that divide, you know.
I would say that they're far more punk than him, but like
agreed.
I do appreciate that there will be some kids that find their way into some very punk rock stuff through him. But I just really wish people would stop with this whole I don't know, man. Like
it's a societal thing. Anytime someone gets big with anything, we try to put like the savior thing on them, I think. And it's just like they're just another cog in the machine, you know what I mean?
Well, he's such a fraud in my opinion. There's nothing I mean, inauthentic's the best word you could have said, but like fraudulent, dude. I feel like he's faking these people out.
He looked like a teenager, right? That was going through like your emo phase or your punk phase, right? That's what the whole last 2 years were with him, right? Like that's what it got
Yeah, well,
projected as. I
I
think it was
think
more
he's.
calculated than that, but yeah.
Oh no, I definitely think that this was a look. I love Travis Barker, but he's a businessman,
Mm-hmm.
and I do believe that this was calculated. That this was all like, hey, I got an idea. So you're already over here playing these acoustic songs in your spare time. Why don't we write an album? It would be huge. You can just attach my name to it,
Mm-hmm.
and we can make a bunch of money. He just didn't think it was going to take off like it did. Because do you
Right.
remember his first couple of songs? They were literally like one-offs.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, yeah, I'm just doing this kind of exactly what I said. He's doing it in his spare time. And again, I'm not hating on the success, dude. I don't care about that. Like, I don't have anything to do with it, so I don't care about it. It doesn't bother me. I don't care if he goes on tour, and I don't even hope that he fails. Like, that's not it at all. I don't want the guy to fail because I'm not a piece of garbage. But like, I don't know, man. I feel some kind of way when he's brought up in a conversation about punk stuff. It bothers me, and maybe I'm sensitive. Maybe I'm blah, blah, blah. Dude, I don't care. Call me whatever you want to call me. The people that call you that are also the same way too. We're all
Mm-hmm.
humans. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get to tell me I'm sensitive and then act like you're not. Give me a break.
I mean,
Dude.
at the
What
end
are
of the
we
day,
talking about?
what is it that we're talking about? Of course, it's it's heightened emotions on
Yeah,
meaningless
yeah.
stuff, right?
We're being super sensitive over here. We're being emo about punk rock.
what a closed circle, what a gap, amazing.
Man,
I'm gonna go write a song right now about MGK not being punk, and it's gonna be in the
dude,
style of
I already wrote
like
one,
Neck Deep or something. I don't know,
bro. Like, I mean, there's a ton of those bands. Like, the lines get blurred when you start bringing stuff like hardcore in the mix, because a lot of that stuff is like suburban kids who are inherently not punk, but they're
Mhm.
willing to put in work and they're willing to do like shows and flyers.
Yeah.
So it's like that part of them is punk, but like they're not. You know what I'm saying? So it's a weird.
Mhm.
There's all these little blurry lines. It's a very much a I think you're missing out if you just only do this aesthetic. If this is all
Mhm.
you're into is this black shirt with patched everywhere stuff, because while I wear the hoodie every day, it's my favorite hoodie, is what I wear. I also listen to other things. I mean, I got a Teenage Bottle Rocket hat on. You've seen my channel, so you know I like Drain. You know I like Kubla Khan, Texas. You know I like
Mhm.
Terror is my favorite hardcore band. Like, I listen to that stuff. So you know if you've been around that I like Adele. You know that I listen to Lady Gaga. I like Green Day. I love Brands. Is my favorite band. So I have a pretty eclectic mix of stuff. But I'm pretty much this dude when it comes to my core. But if that's your whole identity, I do think you're missing out. And if I had
Mhm.
to say, okay, I'm either going to listen to only this stuff or I'm going to listen to everything, and that has to include MGK, then I'll just have to include MGK, because I look, you have to be able to admit that, and some people just can't do it. And if I had to do that, and I had to make a choice, is he included or not? Because you either get only the super punk stuff, or you get everything, and that includes him. I guess I'll take everything, because I like enough stuff to where I think it'd be I think I would be fraudulent if I acted as if I didn't like other stuff, and I think I'd be
Mhm.
fraudulent if I didn't admit to being very unpunk at times, and I would be disingenuous and inauthentic if I couldn't stand up and go, yeah, I do a lot of things that aren't very punk, but at the core, like, what am I about? Where do I put my money, my time? It's evident where I stand. Like, I don't have to prove anything to anybody.
Mhm. Well, I think it speaks to the influence of punk on society, and not only just music, but in society. And that, like, you take that same approach where I view like my day job as some kind of extension of punk rock, even though it's a decidedly non-punk thing. But it's just sort of the frame that I look at everything through. But it's not the limiting principle, like you're saying. I don't like to live it as a parameter. It's just more of the lens that I like to look at the world through.
So, like, I go to this place. So I chose to work at Alamo Draft House. It's a little more of it's still a big company, but it's not like
Mhm.
Cinemark. And I chose to be the place where I fit in. My image fits in there a little bit more. I'm still the only guy in the building that's like that's a punk rock guy. Like, I'm still the only
Mhm.
guy in the whole building. There's a lot of people in that building that if you saw us all walking around, you'd go, oh, they probably like the same stuff. But in reality, I'm the only one that likes what I like in that whole building. A couple of them like Flogging Molly, but they don't
Mhm.
like the Dropkick Murphys. They like
Yeah.
Municipal Waste a little bit, but then they don't like,
Mhm.
whatever bands go down that rabbit hole. But like, so we have a lot of the same aesthetics, but I still stand on an island by myself, and I don't care. What I was getting at was that I use that money to do things like put out records for bands. Like, I literally just signed dude, a year ago I didn't even have this it wasn't even on the table, man. Like that can tell you who I am more than anything. I don't know, man. Like I'm so irritated by this MGK thing, dude. It's so dumb, bro. Like everything about the guy, like why do you have to put that label on the guy? Like because he plays music that resembles Blink-182. Like now I don't know, man. Like it just seems so. It's because we're obsessed with labels as a people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think if you'd never called him that, I don't think he would have called himself anything.
Right.
I don't think he would have been like, I'm the blah, blah, blah. I think people did it, and then he just kind of went with it. But like,
well, yeah. I mean, it probably made sense from a marketing perspective. Again, like they're tapping into a thing that young kids haven't heard in a while. That you know, and then I mean, people like really... people like me that would be like, you know, kind of scratching the nostalgia itch, or you know, kind of or like, especially like I thought there was a lot of that in this last couple of years. Like, oh, people like me are in their mid-30s now, and when we were teenagers, that was the pop music. So it's the same way that old dudes used to go see the Eagles whenever I was a kid, and they were into that. So I think a lot of that, and he capitalized on a lot of that, and it was pretty good for marketing. Like all of a sudden, Demi Lovato was coming out with a pop punk album, and it was like,
wait, really?
Yeah. And now, like that's directly the MGK wave. I think that is direct. And then like Avril Lavigne came out with her pop punk album, which is a little bit different because that has always been a style of music that she has dabbled into. She saw the opportunity.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead.
Now to do this.
One. We're adding one to the list, dude.
Okay.
All right, man. Because All right. Bonus round, folks.
All right.
Is Avril Lavigne punk? No.
She's played punk. She's played pop punk.
She hasn't.
Punk.
No, she
hasn't. She has. No, she has.
Not. What song?
All those songs she had in the early 2000s were very pop punk.
Those are not pop punk songs. Go listen to them again.
What differentiates that from like What's My Age Again, though? Honestly, what would differentiate that?
Wait, sounds different. It's not pop punk. It's singer-songwriter stuff, dude. That's what she is. All it is plugged in. That's it. That's the only difference. It's plugged in and not played through an acoustic guitar. That's who she was. That's who they found. They found a cute girl that was playing acoustic singer-songwriter music. She had a stupid tie on with a wife beater shirt, like a tank top. And they went, oh, she looks like she might like this. They took her. She was never into
I'm not disagreeing with any of that. I'm just saying the end product of her songs.
I'm disagreeing. I don't think that anything about it's pop punk at all.
You don't think Skater Boy's a pop punk song?
No.
Like, really?
No.
Yeah. So I
never did.
Wholeheartedly disagree with that.
Never did.
I don't think she's part of pop punk. I don't think they were part of punk rock, but I think that was
nothing about that. Now, everybody's going to disagree with me on that, and I don't care. It doesn't matter to me with whether or not they agree. But I will stand on that hill. There's nothing pop punk about that song. It sounds like a country song. Go back and listen to it again, and just listen to it through the lens of like, okay, could this be a country song? If they just changed like maybe the way that they distorted the guitar a little bit, or if they mixed it a little bit different, could this be a country song? Because it absolutely could be. Her music was never pop punk. Nothing about her. She dated a pop punk guy.
Mm-hmm.
They put her in the mix because she had a pop punk look for a little bit, and she talked about skateboarding. That's it, bro. She wasn't a pop punk artist. Never was. Nothing.
I'm not saying she's a pop punk artist. I say she made pop punk songs. Like that's where
she did it. Nothing about her was ever pop punk. Ever. I don't think anything about her. Like the closest you could get is Skater Boy, and if that's your only argument, that's crazy because that song isn't a pop punk song. I mean, dude, if it was played on down here in Houston, we have a radio station called 104.1. It's like a top 40, like it's a pop channel. Mm-hmm. And then we have one called 96.5, which is like an easy listening channel. Mm-hmm. Then we have one called 94.5 The Buzz, where my brother's the radio DJ on there. That's where anything like rock and roll will be played. Tell me why they didn't play her songs on there then.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
No, I'm just saying like it doesn't fit the mold. Nothing about.
I agree because she, and to me at the time she was more of like the next evolution of like the Britneys and Christinas and all that. Like she was just another in that vein.
But they put a guitar in it and then they called it pop punk. But there's nothing. It doesn't even sound like a pop punk song.
So do you want to? Do you want to know? Here's my theory that I've been trying to work out. I want to make a silly video about this about Avril. So my theory on here, and it actually was that she wasn't making pop punk. So maybe I need to amend my take I just said there. But my theory is that she wasn't making pop punk. But what she and she was doing. She wasn't necessarily writing music for like young girls as a sort of like, and that's what was her target audience. I think what she was actually doing was she was writing fanfic for 15-year-old pop punk dudes. That's what her music actually was. Like when I would listen to a song like Skater Boy, that's like that's like a pop punk kid fanfic. That's what that is. And then she married the dude from Sum 41, right? She had
it was so strange because
I think that's actually her role.
Because one day they were talking about like even back then they were like they never really called her pop punk.
No, that's been retroactively applied.
That's my point. Nothing about her has ever been pop punk.
I don't think we actually disagree.
I don't think so either. I think you just instinctively were like, wait, what do you mean? Because we just kind of hear that she's this pop punk princess. Dude, what are you talking about? The songs that she wrote this past year were more pop punk than anything she ever put out because she actively went and tried to make some pop punk.
Pop punk, yeah.
And even that stuff was maybe a little bit pop punk. But no, dude, there's nothing punk. There's nothing pop punk about Avril Lavigne. And I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. That's for each person to decide on their own whether or not they think it's a good or a bad thing. I like a lot of her music. But one day I was reading something, man. It was before she had come back, and somebody I guess they were doing like a anniversary review on one of her records or something, and they were talking about how they called her singer-songwriter, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, Avril. And I was like, I haven't heard her in a while. I went back and listened to it, and all of it kind of made sense. And then a couple years later, she's like back in the media, and they're calling her the pop punk princess, and I was like, wait, why would they call her that? Because she had stuff at Hot Topic? Because she liked some of these Blink-182 songs? Like, I don't understand, because none of her music resonates with that. Like, none of it, I don't know anybody that's going to be like, yeah, I saw Mess tour with Avril Lavigne. I saw Avril Lavigne touring with Sum 41 and Blink-182. No, they might have supported her on a tour at some point in the late 2010s or something. But no, back when they were coming up, they weren't touring together. They weren't even on.
No, she was with the Britney Christina ilk. That's where she was.
I don't understand this whole she's this pop. I don't get it. I think people again want to associate because she had like a sort of a look. She had like a dark eyeliner. She was a little bit. She looked like a skater chick kind of, but like that doesn't mean that. I mean, those girls listen to as much hip hop as they do anything else. Like, so what does that mean? So I really think that they just saw skate shoes, cargo pants, tank top, weird little tie thing, and she's extremely pretty. Like, she's a very pretty lady. So like they're like, oh man, let's attach her with this because they're trying to package it and send it out and make a bunch of money with it. But I think it's funny how they retroactively donned her this queen of this subject. Right. Wild, bro.
No, because we're on the same, because I didn't think of her much in that era, pure other than like the females that I hung out with just freaking hated her.
Another reason why dude, everybody I know,
all the females I knew like just could not stand her. And that was like, it was funny because I don't feel like that got applied to Hayley Williams as much a couple years later. Maybe
I don't like her either, man.
Everyone else was a little bit older, but like Avril was more of a singular like figure like that definitely the young females in my life just did not vibe with her. And I was a little more indifferent because I didn't really cross paths with her as much back then too. I feel like unless you just got your stuff from TRL, even if like I was a pretty big pop punk kid, she wasn't on the Warped Tour. She wasn't
that's kind of my point, is that she was never around in this stuff other than she was with Derek for a while.
Which I think was a little bit later too. Also,
I think so too. That was like
more mid 2000s than
2000s.
Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, if I was to go back and pick out any of the women back then that I thought fit the mold for pop punk, it would have been Pink more than anybody.
That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
And she's not pop punk. Like, if Pink's not pop punk, then tell me how Avril Lavigne is. Like, give me that argument.
Yeah, and Pink, and I love the stuff that she did with Tim, and I actually like a lot of that album she did right before him. She was playing. I think those are pop punk songs, so I will still hold on to that. Those are pop punk songs.
I didn't listen to those, so I don't know. But
filtered through her filter. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm gonna say that I disagree without even knowing what they are.
Yeah.
No, I think I will go back. But I will go back and listen to them.
No, philosophically, I think you will. Like, if you're not considering the Avril stuff, at least pop punk in its. And I think you would do the same thing with the Pink stuff.
Not even sonically, dude. I don't think it sounds.
I do like the Pink stuff better, but the Pink stuff's like, you're still very aware that it's Pink. I think that's maybe where we're getting at there. It's still filtered through their lens. You know, it's the same way if like a punk band that we like throws in a metal riff or something. Like we're not going to say they're a metal band or they're doing a metal song. They just have a metal riff in there.
Sum 41, anybody?
Yeah, there you go. There's an example. If we were a metal podcast, we would have them as one of our bands to say like, are they metal?
Right? No, for real. And like, I think a lot of people are going to get mad at a lot of things we're saying, and it's going to be a lot of young people, and that's okay. If you're upset by things, let us know how much you hate us.
They also weren't there. Like when we're talking about specifically, they weren't there.
Oh no, that's why I don't get bothered by any of that. I don't care, man. You can say whatever you want now. If you're 15, I don't care. But as a matter of fact, if you're watching this and you're that young, thank you. I appreciate it. Like I genuinely, even if you disagree, like that's cool.
Like good for you too.
Good for you for watching this,
on this.
Trying to listen, trying to learn maybe a little bit, trying to maybe make your point. I mean, dude, that's all this really is. At the end of the day, is a conversation where we can all try to learn something. I mean, that's what I hope to get from hanging out with Rob, is to learn something to some degree. I mean, you know,
I mean, that's how cool. We just disagreed about a point we agreed on. Like it was great.
Right?
That's why this is fun.
I mean, you know, whether or not we're right is almost irrelevant because it doesn't matter.
It's art. It's punk.
Punk. And so
you and I take it seriously, but it's still punk.
Yes, and so at the end of the day, we're right and we're wrong probably at the same time, because we aren't in front of any gate. There is no gate. There's like a blurry rule set, but there's not like any kind of, you can do whatever you want. And that's what I want people to learn. And that's what I want people to do. Avril Lavigne's songs not being pop punk doesn't really matter. Are they good songs? I don't really like many of them, but clearly some people do. So I would say objectively, they got to be good to a certain degree. Right. I just hate, I think my problem is that I don't like liars, and fraud is a lie. And so when I get told things that I think is outright BS, it bothers me, man. It really does. And I go, this is ridiculous. Like, what are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. I'm an old head at this point, dude. Like, I'm grumpy. Whatever, dude. Like, don't have to take it so. Don't take me any more serious than you would an Avril Lavigne album. Like, don't. Why are you taking me serious? Like, I don't take me that serious. I love this stuff. I do this. I love this shit, man. And I'm going to argue with you about it. Like, I don't even care, bro. Bring it on, dude. Like, I love this stuff. Dude, I made these patches, well, 2 of them, and then I sewed them all on by myself with my hands. I'm 41, dude. I still do. I love this stuff, man. It's in my blood. It's in my bones. I take my kids to this stuff. I take my wife to this stuff. You know, I love it. It means something to me, and that's why I get defensive about it. It means something to me. I've bled for it. I've cried about it. I've worked on it. Dude, like, I'm not the most punk rock guy in the world, but I'm down like a motherfucker, bro. Like, you don't even know. Like, you know, it's a fun thing, man. I love what I do, and I love talking to Rob. Yeah, man. I'm a little defensive about it. It's. I feel like I've earned it. I've earned the right to be a little bit defensive. So it's cool, man. Avril Lavigne's dope. She's all right. I don't like her music much. She seems cool.
Come on the podcast, Avril, if you're watching. Come on.
Avril Lavigne. I don't even know if I'd want her. I would be pretty nervous because I don't really know.
Yeah, do a lot
she's
of
like
research,
uber famous, bro. Like, I don't really. What am I going to talk to her about? Like, you know what? I will. What's your top 10 pop punk albums, Avril? You pop punk princess.
Is the guy from Nickelback cool in real life, or is he a jerk? That's what I'll ask her.
Oh man, didn't they date?
They're married, aren't they?
What?
I think so. She only marries Canadians, I guess. And,
she's super punk rock, guys. Oh man, that's hilarious.
One of the guys from Simple Plan's probably lining up next because she's just marrying Canadian rock dudes.
There we go. I hate that band. Dude, so at work yesterday, I was talking to one of my regulars, and she's kind of an older woman. She's probably in her late 60s. And she's like, yeah, she knows me. She comes in all the time. She's a regular. And she's like, she drinks martinis. So she's like, hey, Randall, can I get another drink? I'm like, yeah. So I'm like making her a drink, and she goes, you know what? You don't like metal, do you? And I was like, wow, the fact that you can distinguish like that I don't like. And I was like, no, really, but why? And she goes, oh, I got a friend whose son is in a metal band, and she's like, I was just curious if you knew who they were. And I was like, wait. I said, so you got a friend whose kid is in a metal band? And she goes, yeah. And in my head, I was thinking kid. In reality, her friend's kid's got to be like my age, right? But I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm like, yeah, whatever. And so like 30 minutes go by, and she goes, it's Disturbed. And I was like, wait, you know somebody whose kid is in Disturbed? And she goes, yeah, my friend's son is the drummer. And I was like, here's my card with my email address. I was like, I'm from Texas too, so just slide that to him. I said, if he'll reach out, I will absolutely have that dude on this podcast. Are you kidding me? The drummer for Disturbed, because first off, that's hilariously ironic. And second, I'm from Texas, based Texas musician. I don't care. Like, I never claimed to be cool, bro. Like,
that's so funny though that it's just like, oh, my friends, I'm thinking like, yeah,
bro,
they're
blew
gonna
my
play at the
mind.
rec center next week or something. She was probably gonna say, I would think,
dude. Yeah, and it blew my mind. Like, I couldn't believe that. I mean, I stood there for a second. I was like, what? I was like, I mean, what? Like, so strange, dude. But
shout out to her though for recognizing you weren't a metal fan too.
Bro, that lady rules, man. And she drinks like straight up like vodka martinis, bro, with nothing else in it, just vodka on ice. Like
that's a cool woman. That's been a cool woman for a really long time.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. I'm like, you don't want olive juice in it or nothing? She's like, nope. I'm like, oh my goodness.
That's a great story,
dude. Yeah, Disturbed, man. I was like, wow. I should have went wow.
that would have been my response. No, mommy, don't do it again.
I'm sad that I know that. Bro, this is the least punk rock podcast on the internet.
That's the thing about all this is if you were alive at like now the internet has segmented everything so nobody knows everything, but if you're just alive, you're kind of be a metal guy, but if you're just alive in like 2000 and someone goes oh, wow, you know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Just one of those things. You had to be there.
Oh man, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, dude, like look, I kind of hope I can get that guy in the podcast. Like that'd be dope, dude. Like that would bring a whole different audience to this channel. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yo, how about our growth, man? I'm at like 260 subs already, and like we're doing pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Like
the live footage has been pretty cool too. I've been enjoying that just as something to watch.
Yeah. I've been trying to just find cool stuff. I'm fixing to put up. I'm working on a video. It'll have to be next week. It won't be this week, but I'm working on a video that is my daughter's first concert experience. We got it on film. Like I filmed,
cool.
I filmed like her going in, her kind of dancing around for the first song, and then I filmed like the whole set.
Sounds like a story, a kind of element to it there. Yeah, that's cool.
So I'm gonna have that uploaded probably in the next week or two. But it took me forever to find the footage. I had it like on a SD, like a micro SD card, and I just couldn't figure out where it was at. You know where it was? The stupidest place, dude. It was still in my GoPro.
In the camera,
and I never looked there.
Why would it be the place it goes? I don't know.
You know, I'm an idiot.
I hate SD cards. Clouds are my friend.
Yeah, they're a pain in the butt. Freaking man, I wonder if this is gonna be a successful video at all.
I don't know. We got some hot topics.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
Bottom line is, if anybody's still watching it at this point, I don't hate on any of these people except MGK, but I feel like I have a pretty good reason for it. Mainly because I think he sold out on his own stuff, man. I think that he sold out on his own stuff, dude. He was an excellent rapper. People can say whatever they want. He had bars, and he sold out on his own stuff, man. I thought that was pretty whack, dude. You know, I mean, would I be mad if he went out and like wrote some singer-songwriter stuff and played that? No, not near as irritated as I am about this whole facade. Like, and then all of a sudden he's back in this lowrider with his buddy rapping again. I'm like, this is why I'm irritated by it, dude. Like, not that you have to pick a lane, but pick a lane. That's pretty stupid, I guess. It's pretty dumb. Me being mad at it is just as stupid as him doing it, I guess. We're idiots, bro. It's awesome.
And someone's watching this now and they're like, well, who is this guy they're talking about? You know, I'm just an old crusty punk. And then they're going to go and he's going to get like downloads because of it.
Oh, so, yeah. He's going to get support because of me.
There's an anti-31 TV bias that he's going to get that bump.
Oh, man. Some kid with the pop punk review is making a video is like...
And then he said Alvaro wasn't punk.
Yeah. Is this guy punk? No.
It's going to be, the thumbnail's going to be a picture of you and it's going to say Boomer doesn't know what the hell he's talking about or something.
Let's go. Dude, some kid out there, please make that video. I'll come on your podcast and tell you why I'm right. Oh, that's awesome. Dude, I love it when people make fun of me, dude. When people roast me online, it's like my favorite thing, dude. It doesn't bother me even a little bit. And the best part is they all think it does. And that's what makes me laugh. Is that I'm like, oh, like at first I thought they were just arguing to argue. And then I realized that they actually believe that I'm bothered. I was like, wow, that's amazing.
I love when I get a comment about a fact I'll have stated wrong or something. Like I said Suffer from Bad Religion came out in 1998, which obviously I know that's not the case. I misspoke on it. And Suffer actually came out in 88. And I was like, oh, really? I thought it came out in 90. And I made some big old long thing about like this whole counterfactual, clearly being sarcastic.
Well, and then they took it as you were serious.
Well, actually, it was 88. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know. I responded because I was like, dude, like clearly I knew that I screwed up there. Like, thank you for educating me on this.
People don't think we can make mistakes on here. We're not allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely can't say something and then you definitely can't change your opinion. Don't you ever say that you like this on Monday and then Tuesday you don't, or vice versa. Don't you do that. I've had people that I've had a guy tell me, he goes, I thought you didn't like Cemetery. I was like, I didn't. Wait, what? I'm like, yeah, I do now. Like, I listened to it so much because of you guys that I started liking it. So thank you for that. But yes, I do like it. Like, you ever had mayonnaise? I hate mayonnaise, but if I eat it enough, I'll probably like it all right. Like, what are we talking about, people? Dude, I love being this, like, curmudgeon old grump, dude. It's my favorite part of my life. It's the best, dude.
I feel like, yeah, it's been years of striving to get to this point, too, of just...
when I'm 60, bro, watch out, folks. Oh, man, I'm going to say like, super racy stuff. I'm just going to be like, I'm crossing all the lines. I don't even care.
Hopefully you're still doing a channel by then.
Do what?
Hopefully you're still online and doing a channel by then.
Dude, I'll be like...
crusty 60-year-old punk rock.
Yeah, son of a bitch. Okay. I changed my mind. Sublime sucks. They're not punk rock.
Hey.
All right, man. I'm going to get out of here. I got to go to work. Do you like the morning time thing? Is that cool with you?
For the next couple of months, it'll work, and then schedule changes again.
Okay, okay. Well, then let's try to do next week early again.
Okay.
Next Tuesday, okay?
Yeah.
I'll come up with a topic, throw it to you, see if you like it. If not, we'll figure something out.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, brother, man. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out on this episode of the Punk Rock Review Podcast. I appreciate your time. I had fun, man, and I hope that you had fun, and I hope you have some different opinions so we can talk about it in the comments. Please like and subscribe. I have my Bandcamp signed up for the label now, so if you want to go check that out and support the label, you don't have to buy anything. You can just go follow it, check it out. When we drop new music, you'll see it. I've got like 3 more records coming out this summer, possibly 4. So I'm putting in a lot of work over there, and I'd really appreciate the support. And we're on Instagram now too, so it's a lot of following and this and that. If you have the time and desire to do so, please. If not, thanks for watching. That's the most important thing. Rob, you got anything you want to talk about before we go?
Just every Tuesday night on my channel, the Punk Ots, there's some sort of one topic deep dive. We did Recipe for Hate last night. I think we got the Dropkick Murphys Blackout, which we've talked about on this podcast. That's the one coming up. So just go check that out every Tuesday night on the Punk Ots channel.
Heck yeah, folks. All right, man. We'll see y'all next time. Have a good day. Peace.